And welcome back to this final hour of this Tuesday edition of Newsmax Now. I'm Miranda Kahn.
We appreciate everybody being with us. Thanks again for sticking around. President Obama says there will not be a deal with Iran unless the country's path to a nuclear weapon is completely cut off.
Because I've said from the start, I will walk away from the negotiations if, in fact, it's a bad deal.
Well, both sides in Vienna today deciding to take a bit of a breather, extending the deadline yet again. President Obama says ultimately it is up to the Iranians to meet the requirements set by the international community. Meanwhile, the State Department has extended the deadline again to reach a deal with Iran into next week. Secretary of State John Kerry in Vienna right now meeting with Russia's foreign minister, who says the deal deserves to get the Security Council, the UN Security Council, endorsement.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie announces his run for the White House today, but protesters gathered outside the Livingston, New Jersey High School where Christie made his announcement. People there say the governor can't be trusted to run this country.
If you give me the privilege to be your president, I will wake up every day, not only with my heart strong and my mind sharp, but with my ears open and my arms open to welcome the American people, no matter what party, no matter what race or creed or color.
And despite what the critics say, Governor Christie says he will make sure that every American has a president who understands what voters really want.
Well, Pope Francis
has no political agenda, who represents no political party or interest, but simply speaking to the hearts of people.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves. That was Cardinal Donald Wuerl of Washington, D.C., calling the upcoming address of Pope Francis here in this nation significance, talking about the significance. Of course, the Pope will be the first pontiff in history to address Congress, including John Boehner, who you see right here when he visits the U.S. in September. Boehner says lawmakers will welcome the Pope with open arms. Pope Francis may want to also, as he makes his trip around the country, chew on some coca leaves when he visits Bolivia next month. He's also stopping there. That's according to a spokesman from the Bolivian Tourism Ministry. A spokesman says the Vatican says he doesn't want to comment about the request, but does say the pontiff will do whatever he thinks is right when he's in Bolivia. Coca leaves, which are a key ingredient in cocaine, are often used by locals to help avoid mountain sickness in high altitudes.
The raging wildfire in Washington state is destroying now more than 24 homes. Officials admit they're having a hard time containing that blaze, but are optimistic.
Right now, this morning, we have a 10% containment on the fire. You will see that dramatically go up today. And what we mean by containment is basically that's line that we are sure that we can walk away from without having any issues.
The fire comes as Washington state continues to struggle with a severe drought there. About 1/5 of the state's rivers and waters are now at historic lows.
12 prison workers at the Clinton Correctional Facility in upstate New York have now been placed on administrative leave. That is according to the New York State Department of Corrections. Officials suspended the superintendent and a deputy superintendent at that prison, along with 10 other workers. Of course, this is where those two convicts escaped from 21 days ago. And now CNN is reporting that the FBI is investigating possible corruption at the facility. Again, those two inmates broke out and took police and state troopers and the FBI on a 3-week manhunt. And remember the upstate New York correction officer who also worked with that prisoner, this guy right here, Gene Palmer. Well, he has cleared the way for a preliminary hearing, and now the grand jury can act. He's accused of passing meat filled with tools to the two escapees, but he says he did not know about the escape plan.
And the Chief Justice of Alabama's Supreme Court now backs away from remarks he made about gay marriage. Chief Justice Roy Moore, he initially said an order would block gay marriages for nearly a month. Now he says that order only calls for motions or briefs and doesn't put any restrictions on whether a probate judge in Alabama can issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple.
Now, the U.S. Supreme Court, of course, on Monday granted an emergency appeal to put a Texas law on hold that would have closed 10 abortion clinics. The order stays in effect until the High Court decides whether to take up the case. The justices also agreed to rehear an affirmative action case brought by a white woman denied admission to the University of Texas, and the court decided not to take up an appeal from Kansas and Arizona that would have allowed the states to require proof of citizenship while registering to vote.
President Obama wants more of us to get overtime. In an op-ed for the Huffington Post, the president proposed changing rules so more Americans can receive overtime. Right now, salaried employees who make just under $24,000 a year can be called managers, and they don't have to be paid OT. The president wants to raise that limit now to more than $50,000 a year.
Well, that's going to take place, I guess. President Obama again pushing forward with some of these initiatives. Interesting to note, according to some polls, his approval rating inching back up above 50%.
Not surprised. Well, maybe he feels like, why not? He's winning on a lot of other issues. Why not tackle this?
Yeah, we'll see what the big concern with this administration was the president's legacy, and that obviously took a change of direction last week to the president's liking, but more to come on that for sure. But let's talk about a presidential contender right now, that being Donald Trump. Of course, NBC Universal has ended its relationship with Trump after the presidential candidate made some fairly controversial remarks about illegal immigrants in Mexico. During his presidential announcement speech back on June 16th, Trump said illegal immigrants are bringing drugs and crime across the border. Well, NBC Universal not too happy about those comments. The company says it will no longer air the Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants, and it's ending Trump's show, The Apprentice. But of course, he said he wasn't going to do that show when he announced he was running for president.
Of course not. Nice way to flip things around.
Yeah.
Well, that's not all Trump had to say about Mexicans and immigration. Remember this, he doubled down on his comments during a news conference that happened yesterday.
There's no apology because what I said is right. I mean, what I said is 100% right. There is tremendous distress on the border. You know that better than anybody. The Mexican people are fantastic. The relationship I have with them is great. As I told you, many people have done business with me from Mexico. And I love the Mexican people. But no apology because everything I said is 100% correct. All you have to do is read the newspapers.
There you have it. Definitely not backing down from his comments, but maybe a little confusion on what he said before versus what he said now.
Well, there continues to be more fallout, more people pulling away from Donald Trump. Late Monday, the Mexican broadcast company Televisa also ended its relationship with Trump. The company says it will not air the Miss Universe competition in Mexico, nor will it patronize any of Trump's properties. Televisa says, quote, Mr. Trump has not shown understanding and respect for Mexican immigrants and has offended the entire Mexican population.
And the fallout doesn't stop there. No siree. Chilean actor Christian de la Fuente said last week he will not be hosting this year's Miss UA pageant. In a video posted on TMZ, he says, quote, Mr. Trump, as a Latino, I cannot work at an event associated with your name. The statements you made against Mexicans and immigrants show that you are ignorant. De la Fuente also called Trump a clown.
Well, there you go. I mean, this thing seems to be getting...
Oh, no, but Trump came back.
Of course he did.
Of course he would. Did you hear what he said?
No, tell me.
He basically said the actor had not been signed up to host the pageant anyway.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So
This
here's
is a
a good
little
way
bit
of
old.
flipping things around.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at this, and we talked about this, and of course, obviously some are offended by Trump's comments, but as we saw Trump not backing down, we discussed this with JD at the top of the last hour of the program when we were saying, you know, the American people right now, they don't have to agree with you, I think, on every single topic. Obviously, there's some pushback here from the Latino community against Trump, but at least he's saying something and sticking by it. And I feel like there's so much now.
I like that, though. I mean, whether I agree with everything
you can disagree with
he
him,
says,
right? But like the fact that he is not going to have some focus group get together and poll every little thing he's going to say.
But let's be fair here. The man has a lot of money. He has nothing to lose. Not everybody's in that situation, and he knows it.
Yeah, we talked too about this. You know, Chris Christie, his campaign now for president has been called the Nothing to Lose campaign. But we keep coming back to this natural comparison to Donald Trump, as if Christie is just kind of too late to the game here, because a lot of the folks that like that bold talk, the straight talk, as it were, that is probably the crowd that Chris Christie was hoping to court for his camp.
So you think he's losing his fan club then?
I think he's lost its fan club already. Those folks are already on board for Donald Trump. If they want a plain-spoken kind of guy who's not afraid to talk truth to whoever he wants to speak it to, that had kind of been Christie's trademark before.
Right.
Donald Trump's
so Trump
already in the
builds
game.
Bridges, Christie closes them.
He
that
has
kind of thing?
Oh, nice.
Did you like
nice.
that?
He has the first mover advantage, Trump does in this case, I think, in terms of that crowd of voters. But
will be interesting to see.
Right.
Stay tuned. We have a lot more news coming your way right after this break. You're watching Newsmax Now.